relation to the cell and its environment, we have 5 major exchange processes that occurs in the cell. The first is diffusion. We have osmosis, phagocytosis, pinocytosis, and active transport. So those are the 5 major exchange processes that takes place in the cell. So we'll be explaining what these processes entails and how they affect the cell. The first is diffusion. Diffusion is the physical process by which molecules of liquids, gases, or solids move or spread randomly from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. Let me give you this example. When you have a perfume, you bring a bottle of perfume and you open it in a corner of your room. That staying by the side of that bottle, that is when you perceive the perfume. But after a while, say 10-15 minutes, getting to the other part of the room, you discover that you can perceive that perfume. What has happened? Diffusion has taken place. So the process by which solution or gases, solids, or liquid move from a region of high concentration, that is a place where they are highly concentrated, where you can perceive them seriously, whereby they now move to a place where you don't have them at all, or you have them in low concentration, bringing about uniformity. So after a while, that bottle of perfume that I was talking about, you discover that you have it, the perfume is now randomly distributed in the room or even in the place you have opened it. So also when you have somebody that pollutes the air or messes the environment, standing by that person, you perceive it seriously. But after a while, you discover that the thing has moved into the atmosphere. That's another example of diffusion. Another example is you bringing a rotten or broken rotten egg, a egg that is broken, that is rotting, and you now break it. Before you know it, the whole place, everybody starts running because it's spreading. That's another example of diffusion process in action. So, what significance does this diffusion have to plants? First, atmospheric carbon dioxide diffuses into the intracellular spaces of the spongy tissue of the leaf through the stomata in the stem during photosynthesis. By the time the plant undergoes photosynthesis, carbon dioxide enters through the air spaces in the leaf to the stomata. So gases are being transported. You know, carbon dioxide is what the organism takes in for its own metabolic activity. So it enters the plant, like through the aid of this diffusion that we are talking about. CO2 that is useful for the plant enters into the plant system. Also, oxygen moves out from the site of photosynthesis to the outside of the plant. So the diffusion has helped CO2 entering. You know, CO2 is free in the atmosphere because that's what animals breathe out. While oxygen is plant that release it. So plant is able to transport oxygen. Plant is able to transport oxygen from the photosynthesis site to the environment. However, CO2 is able to come in. You know, CO2 is more concentrated outside the plant than in the plant. So the process by which the CO2 from the outside of the plant enters the plant and is able to help the plant to undergo its own metabolic activity is known as diffusion. So that's another example. The exchange of gases is enabled by the process of diffusion. Another significance of diffusion in plants is that there is loss of water vapor from the leaves into the atmosphere. You know, some water vapor escape into the atmosphere, so it is diffusion that aids the loss of water vapor into the atmosphere. That process is called transpiration. So diffusion also aids transpiration. Also, translocation of food in the phloem vessel. You know, it's the phloem that carries food that is being produced in the plant that distributes it to other parts of the plant. So instead of food remaining at the site of production where it is being produced, the diffusion process helps to take the food from the production site to every part of the plant where the food is needed. So you can see the very good importance of diffusion in plants. Another importance is that water and nutrients are being transported from the root air. You know, when you put water in your plants, in the water pots, the water goes into the soil. But how does the water get into the leaves and the other part of the plant? It is simply through this diffusion process, whereby the water and nutrients from the soil gets into the xylem vessel and is being carried to other parts of the plant. So you can see the significance of diffusion in plants. Also, we're talking about the significance of diffusion in animals. First, exchange of nutrients between fetus and mother through the placenta. You know, in the reproduction process, especially in mammals, when you have the fetus, that is the baby in the womb, the baby gets food from the mother through the placenta. That is why they tell pregnant women to be careful of what they eat, the kind of drugs they use, because it affects their baby directly. Even though the baby is in the stomach, is enclosed in the amniotic fluid, but the food, the water, the drug, everything the mother takes gets to the baby. How? It's still simply through the diffusion process. So diffusion is very important for exchange of nutrients between mother and the fetus through the placenta. Another significance of diffusion in animals is the transport of glucose and amino acid in the villi into the blood circulatory system. You know, when you eat your food and it is being digested, it gets into the villi, the useful ones, while the ones that are not useful to the body is taken to the large intestine and is taken away from the body from that. But the ones that goes into the small intestine is absorbed by the villi into the blood circulatory system. So by the time it is being absorbed, and for the blood to carry it around the body, so that's another diffusion process. You know, in the villi, the food, the glucose and the amino acid is well concentrated, but the process of absorption now is diffusion, because that's the area of high concentration to other areas of the body that is not well concentrated. Another significance of diffusion in animal is gaseous exchange in the lungs and the gills of vertebrates. I mentioned that in plants, the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So also in animals, by the time CO2 is produced from the lungs, it is carried out through the nostrils into the atmosphere. You know, CO2 is concentrated there. By the time it goes out, then oxygen comes into the animal. Then removal of CO2 by unicellular organisms such as amoeba. Amoeba also removes its own carbon dioxide by this process of diffusion. So you can see that diffusion is very, very helpful in the day-to-day activity of both plants and animals. Then what are the structural features for diffusion? That is, what are those things that aid diffusion? What are those things that encourages diffusion? The first is high surface to volume ratio. Let me give you an example. For instance, when you have an organism that is small, the surface to volume ratio is high. But when an organism is big or is large, the surface to volume ratio is low. So by the time an organism is small, it has a high surface to volume ratio, then diffusion is easy. For instance, you want to transport or distribute a particular perfume. Let's go back to that our perfume example. Through a very big auditorium, and you just put it in one place. The rate of diffusion in a very big auditorium from one spot will be very, very slow compared to you having just a small room and you put that same bottle of perfume. It will diffuse faster in the smaller room than in the bigger room. So also we have it. So diffusion occurs faster in lower organisms that have very small size. That is, they have the high surface to volume ratio. So that is how we come about the high surface to volume ratio. High surface to volume ratio is dealing with the size. the size of the organism particularly. Then another structural feature of diffusion is flattened body. When the body is flat, diffusion can easily occur, e.g. in flat worms and in plant leaf. Diffusion can easily occur. Unlike body surface that is so thick like this, diffusion will not easily occur in that body. Also, when we have thin tissue, thin body tissue, such as in hydra and in the sea animal, diffusion will also occur very fast in such organism. Then diffusion, when you have in development of a body system, e.g. in tracheal system of insects, what's the weight of an insect? Diffusion also occurs fast in those organisms.